Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? It's good to see you. I see we've got almost 300 people watching. So please make sure you've hit the like button. Again, this is certainly one of those issues where, you know, we want to promote the video on YouTube and so on. I suspect there might be some people who don't know me who are searching about Assange and stumbling on this channel and on this video. So for those of you who are new, my name is Richard Medhurst. I'm one of just a handful of journalists who've actually covered the Assange case. There's a lot of outlets right now, a lot of headlines about Assange, but most of these outlets, I didn't see them in the court, right? So if you want actual first-hand reporting about what's happening with Assange, this is one of the places that you're going to get that. Kevin Gostola, Stefania Morizzi, you know, Consortium News. These are the places you're going to get first-hand direct reporting. So let me tell you what happened today. Today's a very shameful day. Today is absolutely shameful because we sort of knew this was coming, but that doesn't make it any easier. So the Home Secretary in the UK, who's of course Priti Patel, our lovely Priti Patel, when she's not busy trying to deport refugees to Rwanda, she has time to do this. And what has she done today? She has approved Julian Assange's extradition to the United States. Okay, so this was a rubber stamping, as they call it. In English, we have a phrase called rubber stamping, which is basically just, you know, it's just putting a stamp on something that's already been decided. It's already been decided. So, you know, June 17th, today, we were going to get a decision by today maximum. And here it is. This is from the Home Office's website. And you can see here, they put out a fact sheet and a statement, right? And they said that the Secretary of State, when they say Secretary of State, they mean her. They mean Priti Patel. Okay? They mean Priti Patel. That she must sign an extradition order if there are no grounds to prohibit the order. Right? So in the United Kingdom, when someone is being extradited, it goes through the courts. And then the last person to actually sign it is the Home Secretary. Right? We know this with Theresa May and Gary McKinnon. I'll get into that in a second. But basically, they're saying that on June 17th, following consideration by both the magistrates and High Court, the extradition of Mr. Julian Assange to the US was ordered. Mr. Assange retains the normal 14-day right to appeal. Okay? Quote, in this case, the UK courts have not found that it would be oppressive, unjust, or an abuse of process to extradite Mr. Assange, nor have they found that extradition would be incompatible. I'm sorry, I'm struggling to read this without laughing. This is a joke. This is a joke. Look, man, this is a statement. This is a paragraph that is detached from reality. This is fantasy. This is like science fiction. They say that the UK courts found this is not oppressive, it's not unjust, it's not an abuse of power, it doesn't violate Assange's right to a fair trial, and they say that he will be treated fairly in the United States in regards to his health, which even that is a lie. Even that is a lie. The jail where he will be kept in during pre-trial, so this is Alexandria, at ADC. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't think I'm wrong. They don't even have one doctor that is permanently on hand. Do you understand? So they don't have an actual doctor in this prison. There are some doctors who visit and check the patients, but there isn't actually a doctor there. So that's already a huge issue. And I'm not even going to get into everything else. Again, I feel like we should go over the decision first, the news, and then I'll break it down into details. So they put out a fact sheet underneath, right? They say that down here, they look at these 5 conditions, yeah? And that they give Assange the right to appeal within 14 days. But, you know, these conditions, I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. Because number 2 says extraneous consideration. So if somebody is going to be prosecuted because of their race, their religion, their nationality, their gender, their sexual orientation, or political opinions, then they must stop the extradition. Well, they haven't done that. I wouldn't even go so far as to call it political opinions, but, you know, in the extradition treaty between the United States and the UK, it clearly says that you cannot extradite someone for a political trial, which is Assange's case, right? He's a journalist, and the reasons for his extradition, so the charges that have been put against him, are political. You know, when you think of a journalist being persecuted by a government, what's the classic, the textbook thing? They charge them as a spy, right? That's the textbook scenario, and this is exactly what's happened. They've charged Julian Assange as a spy with a law from World War One. Yeah, so this is the 1917 Espionage Act. They've charged him with 17, not 17 counts of espionage. So this is by definition political. And of course, they've completely disregarded that. And then the other points are not too relevant to this case. They say here that the Home Secretary, so this is after the courts, right? Keep in mind, this is after the courts have already made their decision. The Home Secretary, what she can do, she can only stop an extradition if someone is at risk of death. Now, I highlighted this because when you think of Assange being jailed for, up to 175 years, that's pretty much a death sentence, right? I don't know if people get that, but it's certainly a death sentence. And the reality is that they will certainly get him on a couple of counts. We can't say for sure whether they'll get him on all 18 counts. But even if they, let's say 5 counts, okay? 5 counts under the Espionage Act. So 5 times 10, that's 50 years. And he's just turned 50 last year. He'll be 51 in a few weeks. So he'll get out when he's 100 years old. That's a death sentence. That's like life in prison. It's game over. And when you take into consideration what prison it is, they're not sending him to like some, some suite at the Ritz-Carlton. They're sending him to ADX Colorado, which is a hellhole. I believe the warden said, or a former warden, said that, once you go in, you never see the sun again. So that should pretty much tell you what it's like. So I'm just showing you this because this fact sheet is a joke, right? They say here that the human rights considerations have been pulled. This is important. They say the Home Secretary may not consider human rights or health issues. She's not allowed to do that anymore because they amended the Extradition Act. Do you know why? I remember this because Gary McKinnon, who's also British, not also, Assange is Australian, but I meant also being threatened with extradition to the US from the UK. He was, accused of computer hacking and all this stuff, and at the last moment, when he had exhausted all his legal avenues, Theresa May, she was the Home Secretary, she suddenly blocked his extradition. And why did she do that? Human rights grounds. Article 3 under the Human Rights Act. So she did that, but very soon afterwards, they got rid of that because they were like, we're never having this again. You are never doing this again. This was a huge embarrassment. It was a huge issue, right? And Gary McKinnon, I actually interviewed him in writing, not video. It's on my website if you want to go look, richardmedhurst.com/articles. And we talked about what he went through, his extradition process. That guy hacked not the CIA, excuse me. You lose count. The Pentagon, the Air Force, the Navy, NASA, and so on. So biggest computer hack of all time, right? Nothing to joke at. And he spent 10 years fighting extradition. 10 years. Really drains you. And so they're basically saying she can't do that. She can't say, well, I'm going to block the extradition on human rights grounds. Between you and I highly doubt she would have done that anyway. Even if this was still available to her. You really think Priti Patel would have done that? I don't think there is a single Home Secretary, a single UK politician that would block this extradition. Do you know why? Because they cannot do it. They cannot do it. They're not in charge. There's not a single Home Secretary that would block this extradition. So the US want him that bad. They really want Assange that bad. Do you understand? No one's blocking that. There's too much pressure. They will come down on you like a ton of bricks. Forget about it. Forget it. It's not worth it. For the UK, for the establishment, for these hacks, for these scandalous people, Assange is a headache. So for them, it's just get rid of the headache. Yeah, that's how they view this. And then they go and they talk about, oh, we're a democracy. Sure. And then they talk about the extradition treaty being balanced, right? They say it is in our national interest to have a balanced extradition treaty with the US. That's an absolute lie. And they say here that the US does not get special treatment. That's another absolute lie. This is a complete lie. Do you know the one thing, forget Assange, put Assange aside for a second. The one thing that this treaty has been known for is being unbalanced. This was another tool of the war on terror, right? Remember this was passed in 2003 under a Labour government. Tony Blair, Labour government. And this is the result of the war on terror. The United States wanted to make sure they can just extradite anybody they like. Anybody they like, just hand them over. And then the UK will, people that defend this nonsense will say, well, we block more extraditions to the US than vice versa. Yeah, the difference is that the people being sent from the US to the UK are not US citizens, most of them. That's why they're being approved. Try extraditing US citizens and see what happens. Let me show you from Channel 4 what they wrote. This is a while back already. Yeah, but take a look at this. Just look at this sentence. They say of the 62 people sent from Britain to America for trial between 2004 and 2010, 28 were British nationals or had dual citizenship. America extradited 33 people to Britain over the same period, but only three were US citizens. Let me jog your memory and remind you what happened with Harry Dunn, right? So he's this teenager at 17 years old. He got killed by a CIA agent, an American agent in the US, in the UK, who then fled to the US. Her name is Anne Sekulis. Okay, so she was driving on the wrong side of the road, of all things. And she kills this boy and then flees to the United States. And then the parents, they demand that she be extradited. And the Americans said, piss off. Piss off. They actually tried to buy the parents out. Trump invited them to the White House and tried to buy them off. Can you imagine? For their son's death. They tried to buy the parents off. And that's disgusting. And the UK let her go. The UK knew what she had done. They knew who she were. They let her go. So don't come here and tell me that it's balanced. I just want to put this out there because this framework is what is allowing this extradition of Assange to go ahead, right? And I haven't even gotten into the nooks and crannies. I mean, again, I've been covering this case for 2 years now in court. So once again, for those of you who are new, please look on the channel. You will have playlists that I've put up for you. Everything from the beginning, everything. The extradition hearing in London, which lasted a few weeks, I was there. And then the high court hearings, which took place in 2021. And everything. I've covered it, and I was in court. So I've gone through that like bit by bit. You will understand the whole case, I would hope, right? So, and I mentioned, of course, the other outlets where you should go. Now, Assange, in the courts, they said that initially it was blocked. They said that they're not extraditing him. That was the first decision, January 4th, 2021. So the district judge said, no, Assange cannot go to the United States. He's too ill. He's physically and mentally too ill. He'll kill himself if he's extradited. The problem with this is that at the same time, she agreed with all the political crap. When I say political crap, what do I mean? That, Assange is a spy. Assange conspired to hack computers. So it's kind of a bittersweet thing. She's blocked the extradition, but on very shaky ground. And right now, today, you are seeing the consequences of that. This is exactly what I warned about. I said that, this is not enough. And every decision since has not been about the case, really. Okay? Because what happened is the United States looked at that decision and they said, we are not happy. We're going to appeal this. So they went to the High Court, and the High Court looked at it and they said, no. In December 2021, they said, no, Assange is to be extradited. Okay. So they started ruling in the United States' favor, saying the U.S. can appeal on all 5 grounds instead of just 3, and they can question, Assange's mental health, his physical health, all this stuff, and when Assange lost in the High Court and tried going to the Supreme Court said, no, we don't want to hear it, because what happened in the meantime, and again, I really find this funny because if you lose a court case and you come and give evidence afterwards, they're going to tell you, that you think you can overturn the whole case like that. That's not going to work. Let me explain. Because the United States came a whole month after they lost and said that they're changing their story. They're not going to put Assange in all these like really horrific prison conditions, which are known as SAMs, special administrative measures. They call them SAMs. They changed their story. So I was watching them in court for days and days. They were saying, oh, SAMs are not bad. SAMs are, they just have a bad, they get a bad rep, but they're not that bad. Right? And Assange is going to be fine and all this stuff. They tried to sell this to the judge, that SAMs are fine. And then once they lost, they came and changed the story and said, no, okay. We won't put Assange in SAMs. We give you these diplomatic assurances that we won't put him there. We can send him to Australia. All sorts of lovely things that still don't deal with the fact that this guy's a journalist. Why is he even being sent to the US? Why are you prosecuting him for his work? Why should he be in prison, whether on the moon or in the US or Australia? This is why? Or in the UK? It deals with none of this. And yet the courts accepted this. They said, fine, okay. We trust your assurances. So Assange has been screwed out of this already disgusting and deceitful and really, really insidious case on grounds that were shaky to begin with. Do you understand what I'm saying? So right now, you're going to have an entirely new legal battle beginning, from what I can gather. Again, Assange's lawyers, I just saw them speaking right now. They're not giving away what their grounds of appeal are going to be. But my point is that the entirety of the last year, they've been talking about health grounds. Right now, it's time to start talking about the politics. Why is Assange being sent to the United States for his work? He's a journalist. This is an attack on press freedoms. We haven't been talking about this in the courts, right? This is very important to understand, because the first thing people say is, that this is an attack on press freedoms, that this is an attack on a journalist. But none of that is actually being discussed in court. So right now, Assange's lawyers, Assange's legal team, they will go and start asking whether they can appeal to the High Court on those grounds. Do you understand? I think this is important because I myself, I've just been outraged at all of this. It's like watching a show trial, and I really understand the term kangaroo court now. I really understand it. It's very upsetting. I can't believe that this is happening. Look at the tweet also. The Home Office putting out this tweet saying that, following the considerations, blah, 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 they're ordering the extradition of Julian Assange. I like the Pride logo. The Pride logo is a nice touch. And the Ukraine banner, right? Look at us. We are so progressive that we are sending a journalist to face 175 years in prison. But look at the Pride logo. Focus on that. Don't worry about the journalism thing. Don't worry. We're a democracy. We promise. What a joke, right? What an absolute joke. This is a statement from WikiLeaks. So again, Assange is a WikiLeaks founder. They say that this is a dark day for press freedom and for British democracy. Anyone in this country who cares about freedom of expression should be deeply ashamed that the Home Secretary has approved the extradition of Julian Assange to the US, the country that plotted his assassination. Julian did nothing wrong. He has committed no crime and is not a criminal. He is a journalist and a publisher, and he is being punished for doing his job. It was in Priti Patel's power to do the right thing. Again, that's the Home Secretary. Instead, she will forever be remembered as an accomplice of the US in its agenda to turn investigative journalism into a criminal enterprise. Foreign laws now determine the limits of press freedom. Foreign laws now determine the limits of press freedom in this country, and the journalism that won the industry's most prestigious prizes has been deemed an extraditable offense and worthy of a life sentence. So that last sentence, you know what that means? You understood that? Basically, the United States is controlling what's happening in the UK, or anywhere else, rather. So I just wanted to show you this clip very quickly. This is Assange's wife, Stella Morris.
Thank you for coming on short notice. I'm sure you all understand the extremely serious implications this has for all of you and the profession and for human rights and for Julian personally. I spoke to Julian about 45 minutes ago. He had just learned of the decision. He was not contactable in Belmarsh, so no one had been able to deliver the decision to him until he had spoken to one of his lawyers just before speaking to me. This was always a possibility that Priti Patel would approve sending Julian to the country that has plotted to assassinate him, to the country that Julian exposed the crimes of. And we're not at the end of the road here. We're going to fight this. We're going to use every appeal avenue. And we're going to fight. I'm going to spend every waking hour fighting for Julian until he's free, until justice is served.
So there you go. Right now, I want to read to you something. This is from LBC. Okay, and I think it's very important to look at this because we know that Assange has 14 days to appeal. We know that he will appeal. I don't think his lawyers. I'm talking generally, right? I'm speaking generally about the next step in terms of the High Court. I just saw Jennifer Robinson, who is also on Assange's legal team. She said that she's not going to get into the grounds yet. But let me show you this article from LBC because I think you'll find it very interesting. That's, by the way, that's Priti Patel. That's our Home Secretary. Yeah, that's the Home Secretary who just approved Assange's extradition. So LBC, they mention Kate Gould. She's a partner at a law firm that's called Bindmans. And she's speaking about the Assange case, okay? So she's a specialist lawyer, and she says that if Assange still has the desire to fight, which I'm sure he does, I think Priti Patel's decision is not the end. There are potential further avenues to appeal that he could utilize, and so it's unlikely to be the end of Mr. Assange in the UK. So Ms. Gould, who has specialized in extradition cases for around 12 years, added that, quote, I think that he may have already lodged an application for permission to appeal on the other arguments that he raised in the lower court around the political elements of this matter and freedom of speech. So this is exactly what I was talking about a few minutes ago, that we've been talking about Assange's health and these diplomatic assurances for the last year. There's been nothing. There's been nothing to challenge the real aspects of this case, which are, this is a political witch hunt. This is an attack on the freedom of the press, and so on. Ms. Gould said that Assange's lawyers would first need to be granted permission to appeal on those grounds. And even if permission is denied, the lawyers can make an additional oral application to a different tribunal, with Ms. Gould speculating that process could take things into the autumn. And even if that is rejected, there could be scope to argue Assange is not well enough to fly. She said, quote, that if the High Court says no, you're not getting permission to appeal, then that's probably the end of it in terms of UK court proceedings, unless for some reason he is too unwell, for example, if he's not fit enough to fly and the extradition is delayed. Now, if permission to appeal was granted, the hearing might not be until early 2023. She says that there'll be a lot of work and that finding court time, it will probably be a long hearing. So you need a 5-day court hearing slot in the High Court, and that's probably going to go into spring 2023. In the article, they say that even after all of this, it still may not be the end. Ms. Gould says that in exceptional circumstances, and if there's a quote-unquote supervening event after extradition is ordered, Mr. Assange also has an avenue to appeal the decision under human rights grounds. Right? He could go to the European Court of Human Rights. Now, they asked another lawyer. So this is Rebecca Niblock. She's at Kingsley Napley, and she has worked in extradition law for 14 years. She says that an application to the European Court could delay the U.S. move to bring him over. And she said that Assange's team would likely request that the ECHR case has suspensive effect on the extradition. Okay? And the European Court would either say yes or no to that. She says that the European Court of Human Rights case could take years. It's a very slow process. And the problem with all of this is that, you read this, you hear this stuff, and you think that, well, that's great for Assange because he can explore other legal avenues, right? Which, yes, that's good because if this were the end, I mean, what can I say, right? It's terrible. But the problem is that the whole goal is to make sure that he spends years in court. He's still in prison right now, okay? So he's in Belmarsh prison, even though he's not serving a sentence. And these lawyers themselves are telling you, yeah, he can go and appeal, but it's going to take years. Years and years and years. I can tell you myself, this is very slow. This is very, very slow. So I can confirm to you as well, if you don't know already, courts in general are very slow. This is especially slow. This is one of the worst things. And so that guy is stuck in a prison cell 23 hours a day. He's not serving a sentence. He's just trying to fight for his life. He's trying not to get extradited. And we know that from the prison doctors and also other doctors that evaluated Assange, he is suicidal right now in Belmarsh prison. He has a lot of underlying health problems that have been exacerbated by, the years in the embassy where he was basically also being, arbitrarily detained. And then, of course, now going off of two plus years in Belmarsh prison, 3 years. So you've got 10 years, give or take, 10 years where this guy has been persecuted. He has developed suicidal thoughts and mental issues because of this, right? Exacerbated mental health issues. So my point is that when Assange's wife says a phrase like, the punishment is the process, that's true. That's true. They're punishing him by making him spend years and years in court. Yeah? I know that people with a lot less to fight over in court get very upset about it, right? Which is normal because you can have, you have a lot invested. It's very time consuming, draining. It costs a lot of money as well. But this guy, man, I'm telling you, listen to me. The moment that he sets foot in the United States, forget about it. Forget about it. This guy, they're going to throw him inside of a hole. You're never going to see him again. Game over. Game over. Forget about it. Even right now, I'm looking at this whole situation and I'm like, do they even need to get him? Do they even need to extradite him? They've already screwed him. They've already got him. He's in a prison cell. He is in a prison cell, and they're gonna keep him like this, jumping back and forth like a kangaroo inside kangaroo courts, no pun intended. Do you get me? Do you get me? This is very bad. It's very bad. So, once again, even though his lawyers can appeal, even though he has all of these avenues left, this is still very, very egregious. It's very, very time-consuming, very draining, very mentally consuming. I'm not sure what to say, man. I'm really not sure what to say. It's just disgusting. Do you notice how quiet the media are? They're basically putting this headline out there, but they don't tell you anything about the case. They don't tell you that this is bad for press freedoms. You know, where are all the press? Where's the press corps right now in the UK and the US? They have nothing to say? They have nothing to say? Really? Shameful. Absolutely shameful. Here, this is from Doctors for Assange. They sent Priti Patel a letter, the Home Secretary. Let me click on this over here so you can see that in bigger text, okay? So again, this is from Doctors for Assange. And this is dated 10th of June, so 1 week ago. Okay, so this is an organization that numbers more than 300 doctors, psychiatrists, and psychologists from around the world. 300. Okay? And they're asking Priti Patel not to extradite Assange. Obviously, she just signed the order, but you can see that many physicians are concerned for his health. You have 2 physicians that visited Assange in prison with the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, Niels Melzer, which they mention here, and they called it prolonged psychological torture. This is back in 2019, man. This is back in 2020, right? So right now, we shouldn't forget that a few months ago, Assange had a stroke, a mini stroke. I hope this really drives the point home, because you have doctors that have assessed Assange, some of the best in the world, some of the best psychiatrists, and they've all said this guy's suffering right now. It's not just he will suffer, he's suffering right now. You have hundreds of doctors that are writing to the Home Secretary and telling her, you need to let this guy go. You're subjecting him to very, very cruel, inhumane treatment. And she ignores it. She ignores it, of course. They say that Mr. Assange's health has since continued to deteriorate in your custody. In October 2021, Assange suffered a mini stroke. This dangerous deterioration of Mr. Assange's health underscores the medical concern that the chronic stress caused by his harsh prison conditions, as well as his justified fear of the conditions that he would face in the case of extradition, leaves Mr. Assange vulnerable to cardiovascular events. This dramatic deterioration of Mr. Assange's health has not yet been considered in his extradition proceedings. The US assurances accepted by the High Court, therefore, which would form the basis of any extradition approval, are founded upon outdated medical information, rendering them obsolete. That's true. That's absolutely true. That is absolutely true. Let me continue. They say under conditions in which the UK legal system has failed to take Mr. Assange's current health status into account, no valid decision to approve his extradition may be made by you or anyone else. Should he come to harm in the US under these circumstances, it is you, Home Secretary, who will be left holding the responsibility for that negligent outcome. The extradition of a person with such compromised health, moreover, is medically and ethically unacceptable. During the extradition proceedings, the court heard and accepted medical evidence that Mr. Assange's mental health was such that an extradition order, if imposed, would likely inflict substantial risk of suicide. The subsequent quote-unquote assurances from the US government that Mr. Assange would not be treated inhumanely are worthless, given their record of pursuit, persecution, and plotted murder of Mr. Assange in retaliation for his public interest journalism. You know, like I've said 100 times, man, there's no way you can look at this case and not find something fishy. There's no way. It's that bad. It's that bad. You look at it from a medical point of view, a legal point of view, a moral point of view. It's very, 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 very wrong. Very wrong and shameful. Absolutely shameful. You know, you never see a journalist sit down and ask Biden, why are you continuing this? Why are you keeping the work of Mr. Trump? Why are you continuing Mr. Trump's work? Why are you extraditing Assange? I have not seen one goddamn journalist ask Biden this question. A very simple question. Why are you continuing Mr. Trump's work? Huh? You remember all this crap about how, oh, Biden is so different. Biden is this and that. Biden, you have to vote for Biden because Donald Trump is a fascist. Okay. You got Biden. What's he doing about this? Why is he prosecuting a journalist? Why? Because they've been trying to get this guy for a long time. They've been trying to get Assange for a long time. The US establishment, they don't like this guy. Right? A lot of people have an axe to grind with Mr. Assange. The CIA, the DOJ, everybody, they all hate this guy. And again, I want to keep in focus a very important point. This is nothing to do, this whole case, with 2016, with the election. Nothing. They're trying to get this guy into the US because of Iraq, because of Afghanistan and Guantanamo Bay, and the State Department cables. That's what this is about. Okay? So it's very clear what the nature of the case is. It's political, and you know, all the people trying to justify this and say, oh, Russia this, Russia that. Go home, please. Go home. You are ill-equipped and unprepared to speak about this case. You don't know what you're talking about. Be quiet. Silence. This case, they've gone after him for the most important stuff that he's published. They've kept the Vault 7 on the side. In my opinion, I think they've kept that on the side in case this fails somehow. Then they can still go after him for the Vault 7 leaks, which is very sadistic, right? But this phrase that I want to go back to, punishment by process, I think that's what's going on. Yeah? I think, if they can keep him in court for 20, 50 gazillion years, whatever it is, whatever it takes, that's good for them. And if they can actually get him in the US, that's also good for them. It's a win-win. It's a win-win. And at the end of the day, what does that tell you? That the United States is able to do this to an Australian in the UK. Well, it shows you that the Australian government has no spine, and the UK is allowing this, is an accomplice, because a country with a real justice system, right, an actual justice system, would look at this and say, go to hell, right? And that's the shameful thing that we've done, is we have someone like Priti Patel that allows this. We have courts that allow this. We have judges. These judges are not stupid. They read the fucking news. They have these documents. They're not dumb. They allow this to happen. So we have a very corrupted justice system. We have a very corrupted government. And they're all working, at best they're stupidly and foolishly allowing the United States to do this, at best. But I don't think that's correct. I think that's giving them too much benefit of the doubt, They're smart people. They're very smart people, very capable people. They know what they're doing. And the fact that this has been going on for years and years, come on, man. Enough is enough. And we have a new development in the case, but it's just, for Assange, it's same old, right? Think about it this way. For him, he was stuck in Belmarsh 2 years ago, and he's still in Belmarsh now. So it doesn't really change anything, and he's still going to be in Belmarsh afterwards when he's appealing. So the torture continues regardless. I want to show you one more thing, because the Australians, they have a new government now, yeah? And their statement in regards to Assange is that I love the wording here, yeah? This is the response from the Australian government today. 17th of June. They say the Australian government notes the decision of the United Kingdom Home Secretary to extradite Julian Assange to the United States. We also note that Mr. Assange has several avenues through which he can appeal this decision. The Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade will continue to offer consular assistance to Mr. Assange, noting that Australia is not a party to Mr. Assange's case, nor can the Australian government intervene in the legal matters of another country. We will continue to convey our expectations that Mr. Assange is entitled to due process, humane and fair treatment, access to proper medical care, and access to his legal team. The Australian government has been clear in our view that Mr. Assange's case has dragged on for too long and that it should be brought to a close. We will continue to express this view to the governments of the United Kingdom and the United States. Now, I just want to say one thing, because John Pilger posted this on Twitter. He's an Australian journalist. And he says that the claim by Australia's new Foreign Minister, Penny Wong, that's her in the photo here, right? That Australia has consistently raised Julian Assange with the United States and the UK is false. The Consul General that I met in London didn't have a clue. Australian governments have consistently colluded in this outrage. So let's put that issue, let's put that to bed. Let's put that to rest. And I just want to say, on my part, when I'm reading this statement, this garbage statement, what is this crap? Where's the language that they use for other countries? They say, we can't intervene. No. These are the legal matters of another country. Really? When it's Navalny in Russia, you condemn it. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, where's the word condemn? Where's the word we are outraged, right? We are outraged at this behavior. We are outraged at this decision. We strongly condemn this decision. There's none of it. There is nothing. There is nothing with this milk toast, shit lib, boutique left, latte left, milk toast garbage. This is outrageous. And they want to come here and tell you that this is an improvement, right? So they stand there and they say, "Oh, we're not like the last government. We're not like Scott Morrison's government. This is the improvement, the quote-unquote improvement." So Scott Morrison's government wouldn't even mention Julian Assange. They wouldn't even, nothing, zero, fuck Assange. They act like he doesn't even exist, like he's not Australian. This government acknowledges Assange's existence. That's it. That's the only difference. This is cowardice. Remember, Australia is a Five Eyes country. So Five Eyes, this is the UK, the US, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. They cooperate with the United States on intelligence. They share intelligence. If we're being truthful, Canada, Australia, the UK, and New Zealand share intelligence with the United States. It doesn't go both ways. That's ridiculous. Even inside the US, agencies do not share shit with each other. Never mind with Australia. Australia also has Pine Gap, which is a giant, enormous spy station in the middle of nowhere that belongs to the Americans. There's a myth. I think it's real. There's a rumor that there's a room inside Pine Gap where even the Australians are not allowed to go inside. Right? So they're supposed to be working together, but they're not allowed inside this room, which kind of shows you the subordination. It shows you the subservience, the relationship of who's in control, right? And how disrespectful it is, how outrageous and embarrassing it is. So no wonder that this is the kind of verbal diarrhea that you get right here, where they note, not condemn, we note. Yes, okay. I note. God, they're so creative. Who writes this shit? There has to be a room of people that draft these statements, right? We note. God, that's amazing. This is a reaction from Edward Snowden. Take a look at how he responds to this decision by Priti Patel to extradite Julian Assange. So Edward Snowden says, quote, that it's hard to believe, but it looks real. Every serious press freedom group in the world has protested this. It is an appalling symbol of how far the British and American government's commitment to human rights has declined. How can we condemn authoritarian abuses abroad like this? Oh, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. These people, they want to turn around and then wag their fingers at Russia and wag their fingers at Iran and Syria. Shut the fuck up. Be quiet. I've seen with my own eyes in London, in central London, this clown kangaroo show. So I'm not having it. I'm not having this. And again, like I said, whether I was there in person or online following the court online, this whole clown show for the last 2 years, this is exactly the sort of, classic show trial. Really, that's the word for it, a show trial. There is nothing like, dude, I want to be very clear. Usually somebody who's being prosecuted, a defendant, couldn't fucking dream of getting 300 doctors to write a fucking letter on their behalf. 300! Jesus. And that's just the doctors. They got lawyers, historians, fucking, Pulitzer Prize. Everybody, man. You couldn't dream of getting so many people to come out and testify for you. And Noam Chomsky to make a goddamn written statement. What the fuck more do you want? You couldn't dream of getting that. This guy has everything on his side, and he still gets screwed. Disgusting. This is completely disgusting. Very shameful. Very shameful. So the process continues. The punishment continues. And, Assange, whether he has another mini stroke and he dies, God forbid, in prison, or he gets extradited to the United States and they give it to him over there, it's the same thing, really, isn't it? They've ruined this guy's fucking life. They ruined his life forever because of some, because of some documents. Their dirty laundry. Their killing. Their murder. They murdered people. They murdered, killed, and tortured people. And now they're doing it again because he talked about it, right? They're doing it to Assange as well. They're torturing him because he exposed this. It's like the mafia. This is the mob, It's the mafia. They behave like criminals. They kill, they rape, they torture, they steal. And then if you talk about it, they'll go after you too, right? They'll go after you as well and kill you as well. This is the mafia. These people that are dressed up in suits and walk into, Westminster, and they walk into the State Department. They're the mob. Do you understand? It's the mafia. That's who they really are. It's the mafia. And then they put up pride symbols to show you how illuminated they are, right? How how progressive they are. What a farce, really, what a farce. Like, this is something that you couldn't come up with for a movie, you know? You couldn't make this stuff up. You really couldn't make this stuff up. So again, for those of you who are new to the channel, I have entire playlists. I literally went every single step of this case, every single day in court. Remember, in September and October 2020, the extradition hearing, it lasted about 3-4 weeks. Every single day, I went live and I explained what happened, and who said what, which doctors testified, which human rights or press freedom advocates testified. It literally like 40 plus people that testified on Assange's behalf. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Meanwhile, the prosecution had like 3 people. Right? Again, I'm a bit exaggerating here, but it was really like that. I'm not kidding. It's like 40 plus witnesses in general, and 90% were on behalf of Assange, and 3-4 people for the prosecution. Really like that. And I broke everything down. So please, if you want to learn about this case, go watch the videos. You will find them very informational and educational, I hope. And if not, you have really great people. You know, Kevin Gostola, Consortium News, Stefania Morizzi, Mohamed Almazi. They really did a lot of good work, and keep something in mind. You know, Assange, 7 years in the embassy, and then they got him out the embassy, gave all of his possessions, his documents, electronics to the Americans, right? Why would you give that to the United States when there is no... I mean, first of all, okay, in the United States, they have something called illegal search and seizure, okay? So, again, this is the Fourth Amendment, if I'm not mistaken, Fourth Amendment. So that protects you from illegal search and seizure. So that means, what does that mean? It means the police, they cannot just barge into your home and take things and then prosecute you for them. They need a warrant. And in the case of Assange, even before they had an indictment against him, they had already taken his belongings. So the idea that he would get a fair trial is a joke, because they've already built a case against him with stolen evidence, with stolen possessions, right? This is very important to understand. And it shows you again how this was all planned. They planned this. They dragged this guy out. They convicted him for jumping bail, right? They gave him the maximum sentence. Like, how often does that happen? And then while he was in there, that was basically just an excuse to make sure that the Americans can pull out an indictment. And I want to raise an issue that you don't hear mentioned a lot, is that the indictment was updated, right? They released a new one called the superseding indictment. So the charges were the same, right? You still had 17 counts, Espionage Act, 1 count, conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. And they added something called conduct. So basically, this is like storytelling. It's like adding new charges, accusing Assange of more things, but without saying their charges. And why is this important? I'll tell you why this is important. Because when they go to sentence this guy, after they've already given him the kangaroo court, when they go to sentence him, in the United States, they have something called sentencing guidelines. It's like a table. And based on this conduct, they will screw you even more. So they will give Assange, let's say, even 1 count. Let's say just 1 count. Like, he gets the easiest, right? They give him 10 years, which is unlikely. They will go to this table and look at how many points he gets based on, for example, oh, well, you're the head of WikiLeaks. You're the head of this organization. You weren't just working with WikiLeaks. You founded it. You headed it. So this is like when they're going to treat him like they're trying someone from the mob, right? They're actually the mafia, but they'll treat him like he's organized crime. Yeah? So, oh, you were the guy running the show, so we'll give you such and such points. And then they'll also look at, all of these statements that Assange made, basically soliciting, asking people to send classified documents, which is nothing new. You can literally go right now on Twitter, right this second. You will find people from the Washington Post, from every fucking outlet, saying, hey, if you have any tips, if you have any documents, please send them to me. This is normal. Every fucking journalist does that. It's nothing new. He didn't invent that. Anyway, they will go and say, well, you asked this, you solicited this, you did this, you did that. These are not charges. It's conduct. And then we'll add more points. And then the 10 years turns into, who knows, 20 years, 30, who knows. So this is something that I wanted to cover with, I wanted to go into detail with David Mendoza, right? Because he got screwed like this, right? They gave him 6 years, it turned into 14. Again, he got 6 years, and they turned it into 14. Just to give you an idea. But we'll leave that for another time. In any case, I just wanted to update you on what's happening right now. The torture continues. This guy, Assange, still in prison, still getting treated like a criminal, like a mass murderer. You put a journalist in a Category A prison. Category A in the UK, that means maximum security. Yeah, that's what we call maximum security. So you put a journalist in a Category A prison. He's not even serving a sentence. What do you call that? If another country did that, they would say that this is an authoritarian regime. Yeah, if Russia did that, if Iran did that, if Syria did that to a journalist, they would say this is an authoritarian regime. So in the UK, we are doing that to Assange. What does that make the UK? Based on our own standards, what does that make the UK? Huh? A US lapdog is the correct answer. No, that's one of the correct answers, I would say. No, it makes the UK authoritarian, absolutely. And if you had any sort of, if you thought the UK is some sort of democracy, or it's not. I'm telling you firsthand, it's not. It's not. Never has been. I don't know if it ever will be, but it never has been, and it is not a democracy. I watched them do this in court. Right now, today, what Priti Patel approved, this is coming down from the courts. Remember, this happened in the court several weeks ago, and I saw it with my own eyes, right? So I was connected virtually this time. No, I wasn't in person, but I saw it with my own eyes. The judge was like, I'm just going to order your extradition. This is going to go now to the Home Secretary. You can appeal. That's it. Rubber stamping. A rubber stamping, like some, like he was basically registering a plot of land or something, like some, trivial, mundane matter. Oh yeah, we're gonna extradite you. By the way, you can appeal this. You have 14 days. Goodbye. 10 minutes. It was 10 minutes. No. That's an exaggeration. It was like 2 minutes. 2 minutes. That's it. Done deal. Goodbye. Disgusting. So again, the Australian government, where are you? Where's the Australian government? Why is the British government doing this? Why is the US government doing this? Where are all the journalists? I really want a journalist. Those types that interview Joe Biden, the ones from CNN, yeah, and MSNBC, that sit down and they do those like face-to-face interviews, like, oh, we're holding him accountable. Yeah, ask him about this. Why is he continuing Trump's work? Why is he continuing Trump's indictment? They will never ask that in a million years. And this is something that I find so funny, because you'll find people from, like whoever it is, Megyn Kelly or or George Stephanopoulos, whatever, pick any big name you like, Anderson Cooper, they'll go and sit down once in a while with a foreign leader. So, someone from a South American country, someone the United States doesn't like. And they'll sit down face to face and be like, why are you a war criminal? Right? They'll say that to like somebody's face. They'll go to Bashar al-Assad, to the Syrian president, and say, why are you a war criminal? Is it true that you dropped a barrel bomb on this child? And then when they sit next to their own president at home, they tuck their tail between their legs and they say like, why did you write this mean tweet? That was not very nice of you. And make some kind of shitty insider joke. Like they have these big giant cojones when they go to talk to another leader, but when it's at home, they got nothing to say all of a sudden. They're so childish. They're such wimps. They're such cowards. And so this is another one of those questions that they'll never ask. Right? This is another one of those issues they won't touch. Forget about it. I really think it's too little too late. It's too little too late because the time to lobby Miss Patel, right? Madam Secretary. The time to lobby Priti Patel and hold her accountable not to sign this was many, many months ago, many, many weeks ago. So, whatever lone random op-ed you find in The Guardian is not going to suffice. It's not enough. It's not enough at all. These journalists, they're cowards. They haven't said anything. They won't dare to hold the British government or the American government accountable. Like, honestly, they could have done something. I feel like they're really, really nasty because all these big outlets used Assange's documents and the things that he published. They used them, right? They used them for the Afghan war diary. They used them for the Iraq war logs. They used all of his lovely reporting, and then they dumped him. They got rid of him. And now they turn around and they have nothing to say while he's rotting in prison. So it's very disgusting because they got so many clicks. They got so many ratings. They got so many top, really like explosive front page stories because of him, because of WikiLeaks. And now they're shanking him. They're too coward to say anything. That's nasty. That's nasty. That's not okay. Let me show you one example, just a quick example. You can see in this photograph, look, Assange. You see Assange? He's holding up a copy of The Guardian. Yeah? And this is his own reporting, right? They say massive leak of secret files exposes true Afghan war. Those files were published by WikiLeaks. Yeah? So The Guardian, all of these big outlets, they used his stuff, Le Monde, Presse, and now they have nothing to say. I find that shameful. And again, I'm sorry, one lone piece, some random article, it's not enough. That's not enough. It's too little, too late. And it's looking very bleak. I'm very ashamed. I'm very ashamed by my government. Yeah, I'm very, very ashamed of my government that this is the standard. That this is what Priti Patel does. Shame on her. Shame on Priti Patel. Shame on the British government. Shame on them for doing this. This is disgusting. And I want to be very clear. I don't like this. I know people like to throw around these buzzwords and say, oh, this is not democratic. Oh, this is not. Yeah, forget that. It's not about if democratic or not. It's fucking wrong. It's unjust. Do you understand? democracy or no democracy. This is unfair. It's not proportionate. It's ridiculous. Yeah? And on top of it, it exposes their hypocrisy because they want to pretend they're a democracy, right? The Americans, and in the UK as well, pretending it's a democracy, lecturing other countries about democracy, and then doing this. That's also an additional hypocrisy. You understand? So very, very ashamed of this. In any case, I'm just gonna we'll leave it at that. And again, for those of you who are new to the channel, please subscribe because again, this is one of the only places you're gonna get firsthand reporting about Assange's case from inside the court. And I've got entire playlists for you if you'd like to understand the case. Please go watch them. You start with the extradition hearing, then the High Court. So that's the order that it went in. We'll see what happens. Again, right now, all that we know is that Assange's lawyers will appeal. They have 14 days to appeal Priti Patel's decision. And then where we go from there, what they're going to ask the High Court to do, we'll see. And I will, of course, I will have the latest and all the breaking news for you about the Assange case, as usual. So thank you guys very much. Please make sure you like the video and share the video. Please share the video because, you know, we can't count on mainstream media. We can't count on any government, British, American, or Australian. So we have to do this. You guys have to do this. You know, all I can do is I can report what's happening, but I need you guys to help me share it. And I hope that we can raise awareness that way. So thank you again for tuning in. I appreciate you guys very much. And you know, strength to Assange and his legal team and his family.